I think where I wanted to go with this conversation and where I was texting you about the other day was, or earlier today, is the thing that I didn't find myself watching or watching significantly less of was the MegaCast experience. I had four opportunities basically to watch the MegaCast. I turned the Sky Cam on for about 20 minutes on the Texas game, but got annoyed that there were no announcers, and when I don't have familiarity with the teams, very, very frustrating. And then I turned it on the Rose Bowl, just because they were doing some fun things with the shots and showing cool things. And then I guess it didn't really work for I didn't bother watching it, but I read that it did not work for the Sugar Bowl. Um, do we still like MegaCasts, or do they still have a place?
Do you care less about them because your team's involved in the games?
And I was trying, that's what I was trying to answer by watching, because I did not watch, I watched the traditional broadcast for the Penn State game. I
Hmm.
just watched the normal one. For I would have never done that. And like anytime that I think there was one time that the Steelers have been kind of like on one of those funky games where it's like a animation or something
Hmm.
on the other side. I haven't watched those. We're just watching the regular broadcast. Um, I, I was trying to answer that question, and I don't know. Maybe my judgment is cloudy right now because of all of the fact that Penn State's still in the playoff. I just the other broadcast did not. I didn't feel compelled the way I had before to turn to the other ones. I know the I think they only released stats on the McAfee broadcast, and I'm talking about not just that, but then you also have the Skycam. You had home
Command
and
center
away
too.
radio, command center, things like that. I just didn't feel the urge to turn those on this time around.
No, I agree. And for me, it's because my team's involved, and then I'm going to watch the traditional broadcast of the other ones. I did get a call about because the Rose Bowl started late, right? And they were on
Hmm.
a different place, and then they switched, and McAfee stayed on the channel that the game initially started from. And I got a call from my father, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't listen to the podcast. And if he does, we'll see how this goes. He said, and no introduction, how are you? Because obviously I know who's calling, right? I'm like, hey, what's up? He said, how would someone contact ESPN?
Oh
I'm like,
no.
I'm like, about what, Dad? He's like, what if they wanted that? Did you watch that game broadcast the other night? Those announcers of the Rose Bowl, like the stuff they were talking about and the way the tone. I'm like, that you watched the megacast, you watched the second thing because they started on it and then they changed,
Hmm.
and there was this silence. He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, they do like this radio talk show thing that they do it live at the game. That's why it sounded different. That's why, and that's their shtick. Like, so yes, that's what you were hearing." He's like, "Oh, okay, never mind." Right, but he wasn't alone. Like there was an
No,
awful
there's an
announcers and
article.
everything.
Yeah.
Right, and so I get that and why those people would be confused. I think the megacast option I would like to see during the playoffs is one that they did early on with like the former coach or the current coaches roundtable.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if there's a coaches don't want to do it to talk about other coaches, if they've just decided that format costs too much because they've got to then get talent. And because as it is now, right, they're just showing the same views. It's not really costing them anymore. But I would love to do that. I mean, I would like to hear Brett Bielema, like
Right.
for what it's worth, right, talking about it. Somebody who's probably got an opinion about something and might say something like that might interest me. But if my team's playing, I'm still leaning toward the traditional one because I want to hear what's going on. And I'd be interested, I guess it'd be easy to go look at YouTube to see the views on like the Ham and Jones booth cam, like that they get,
Hmm.
because they get decent traffic on that from people watching them or at least listening to them through YouTube do the game kind of thing.
There was somebody that a friend of mine was was trying to find that broadcast specifically.
Mhm.
And I know that there's a lot of people that tune in and listen to that. Um, it's very funny that your dad was one of those people that basically ended up in an awful announcing article. I could understand how that would be jarring as well, particularly for the reverence we have for the Rose Bowl in this country. Um, I don't know. I think I was thinking about it. The other thing I was thinking about is like I haven't really watched a Manning cast all year. I haven't watched any of the other ones this year, and uh, I maybe they just have lost their gimmick on me, and maybe it's just the fact that like the less the better. Um, I don't even know that it's less. I just think it's the cleaner the better, I guess would be the best way to say
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, I think there's times where it works. I think the Manning cast probably numbers are still good, but you've seen that show. I mean, and this year, they had Belichick on 3 or 4 times, right? It was about who they going to get to talk about these teams, who are from their towns, what other cultural references can they make, how can they pick on each other. But after a couple of seasons of that, you've seen it. It kind of feels like
Right.
Tony Romo, like calling plays. Um, I mean, I think that's around here to stay. Sorry, here to stay. I think the MegaCast could work and probably still does for them because it doesn't cost them anymore. They're not really counter programming. People may stumble over it the same way, but I think they could probably try some things again. And the other one that would be wonderful would be a rules analyst the whole game. Just give us
What's
a
here's what that official's looking at. Here's
the
yeah, that would
whole
be
time because it's the rules, the officiating and the replay throughout the bowl season has just been typically unserving of the viewer. I don't know that it's been awful, but it hasn't served the viewer well at
mm-mm.
all.
I think that I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Um, yeah, no, I I think one of the things I was thinking about, and I was thinking about this, I think it was game day, when the day of the of New Year's, we were watching game day, and Saban was on there, and he was explaining football, and the way he was educating me about football, he wasn't just explaining football to me, he was educating me about football, was so enlightening that like that is what I think I'm looking for. I don't necessarily need Paul Rudd to show up and make some jokes, or I don't necessarily need to have like Pat McAfee being Pat McAfee at the Rose Bowl. Maybe that's just the football nerd that I've become, but I just think that's where I'm at with MegaCast and probably what I'm looking for from that second viewing experience. I don't know what we're calling that, but that would be where I'm at
Yeah,
with
and
it.
I think you could find again whether it's Bielema with the Big Ten teams involved, Lane Kiffin, right? I mean, there's only one SEC team left, but Lane Kiffin, like coaches who have an opinion, and then I think let's see on the fly booking, Tony Reali is the host, somebody who would call a coach, not call a coach up, say, hey coach, we see this happening. Like, why is that play work? Why is that play what looks like the same play to me work 3 times,
Right.
right? And try to pull something out of them. Maybe that can work. That's just more work because you're trying to get on time out of comments on commercials with the regular broadcast and probably line up your commercials there and not have to resell something. But I think there's room for the MegaCast to try coaches again in some way or some kind of expert that would make it feel fresh.
Well, and we'll see what it gets like kind of as we move on in these the
Yeah,
last
I mean,
two
this round
rounds
there may be
here.
they may have
Right.
something new. We just haven't seen
Right.
it yet.
Um, okay, let's